faces. I think that this state is blessed. We have one of the best governors in the entire country. Should have been President of the United States. But since he's not so busy this fall, he agreed to come and help me, which I think is nice too. So the governor doesn't need a lot of introduction. Please help join me in giving him a warm reception.
This is not going to take us long because I just asked Tim Grippen to remind me of what my mission was. And he said, well, first of all, the mission is a very short one. It's like 5-6 minutes. Second, just say good things about me. Tell them to endorse me, support me, send me money, and then go back and do your job. So this shouldn't take me long. I'm very pleased to be here, and I am here to endorse and to support Tim Grippen. Why? He's very important to us. I understand probably better than most people how good he is at what he does. I understand probably better than most people how difficult it is to do what he does. You know, there was a period, the halcyon days of the last decade in 84, 85, 86, when we had a lot of money. And it was easy to be a politician. For example, in Albany, we could cut your taxes, which we did, cut the income tax, gave people back a lot of money, and spend a lot on local governments and education and everything else, all at the same time, because we had so much, and we were very popular. I remember somebody giving me a result after an election I ran, I guess 1986, that says you have just won by the largest margin in the history of the state of New York, larger than Roosevelt, larger than Lehman, etc. And a reporter said, boy, that means you've done a terrific job. I said, it's a lot of baloney. It means that I gave people tax cuts and I gave them a lot of money. That's the way it is. You know, your husband takes care of you, and your wife says that's terrific. As soon as the bum's out of work, then you don't talk to him. And that's what happened to me. And so I've been through it. Now we're broke. We've had 3 years of recession. You do nothing but deliver difficult news to people. You do nothing but say, yes, you're right. Yes, you could use more money for that. Yes, I wish I could help you, but I can't. As a matter of fact, I have to raise some fees. I'm not going to raise your taxes, but I am going to raise some fees. You're denying people constantly, telling hard-working people, even state police who risk their lives for you, that you can't give them everything you think they're entitled to. You have 250,000 people and the public employees who are getting less money, laid off, no raises for 2 years in a row. It's very, very difficult to govern under those circumstances. Tim Grippen gets a lot of that pressure, and he has to be able to govern, allocate resources fairly, make good decisions, keep the people reasonably confident in his leadership. A very hard thing to do. He has done it marvelously well. And I study from afar, you know, what is it that he's got? I mean, first of all, he's very, very reasonable. He is a reasonable person, and he communicates that to people. He's very fair, and that's obvious even if you don't understand the arcane ways of the budget and all the numbers and all the complications and who's at fault. You know when a person is trying to be fair, and there's something from him that exudes a sense of fairness and reasonableness. You know he's a good guy. I mean, he's a man of obvious virtue. You raise your kids to be courageous, well, he's proven what he will do for the things he believes in. He's proven it more dramatically than most of us have in a lifetime. He has all of this and all of these qualities, which incidentally could make him very rich at anything he chooses to do. And if he chose not to be in public service and to go out and just use these special abilities, special qualities and experience, he could make a lot of money. He decides instead to stay in government. Why? Because he wants to improve the conditions of living for all the people around him. That is a terrific guy. Not everybody is as good as Grippen. Not all the governors are as good as Grippen. Not all the assemblymen are as good as Talon and Grippen. Not all the county executives are as good as he is. And I don't go to all the parties for all the county executives, Democrat or otherwise. I go to this one because when I was invited, I regarded it as an honor to be invited. He is a very special person. It's nothing. You know what that is? That's called a serenade. You know what a serenade? No, these are nice words. So what? So now you gave a few bucks for your sandwich or whatever it was. You came to a party, and now somebody said he's a good guy. It's over. Not over. I have a couple of suggestions for you. If you agree with me that he's this good, you have to make sure he wins. And you have to make sure he wins by a very big margin. How do you do that? John Burns now. You see how John Burns wasn't nodding until now? See, until now, John Burns was sitting there standing there stony-faced. See? He was like this. Yeah, I heard this one before. Yeah, actually, Kerry did it better, come to think. Yeah, I know what you were saying, yeah. So he says, when does he get to the part where he talks about the bread? And he's right, John. This is unfortunately a practical business, not by prayer alone, and not by poetry, and not by sweet speeches. He has to win. That means he needs money. And you've given money, some of you, and very, very generously, I'm told, and that's good. But if you have any more, you can send more. Because he doesn't have so much that he doesn't need any more. And there's something else you can give that's even more valuable than money, believe it or not, and that is word of mouth. You know, the instinct for people like yourselves, because a lot of you I know are not committed, zealous, everyday politicians like John Burns and myself and some of the others. You're people who support good politicians and are here to do that. But then in between the fundraisers and the rare opportunities when you're with them, it's mostly not on your mind. You're raising your families and doing your business, and I understand that. You mustn't let those vacuums exist. You only have about a month until the election. We need your mind working, and your voice, and your conviction for this entire period. The best thing you have is your own credibility. See, when you leave here and tomorrow you meet somebody at a supermarket or in your living room or in church or somewhere else, and you say to them, I was at Tim Grippen's party the other afternoon. This guy's very good. We really need him. I'm going to vote for him. You don't even have to say to her or to him, you should vote for him. You just tell him, I'm going to vote for him. That means everything. That's better, I said earlier today, than a slick piece of literature or something you see on a box. What does that mean? Some professional is mouthing off about how good Grippen is. Your whole mind is cynical about that. You say, they're all alike, these politicians. They're trying to con me. But when one of your neighbors comes up to you, somebody you live with, somebody you have respect for, and says, I'm going to vote for that man, that means everything. So that's what you should do from now until Election Day. Every opportunity you get, spread the word. And don't think that that's a small thing. You're wrong. Just do the arithmetic. You like permutations and combinations? Just do it. If you were to speak to one person a day for 3 weeks, that's 21 people, and they were to speak to one person, etc., make it 2 or 3 or 4, you can get the numbers that are very, very big, especially in a race like this. And God forbid, what if a guy were to lose by 1 vote? Think of that one. Imagine if after I said all of this to you, somebody were to lose by 1 vote because you didn't open your mouth. That would really be awful. So money, if you have it, word of mouth, which you're sure to have between now and the election, use it as much as you can. Incidentally, while you're out there pushing for Tim Grippen, who, I want to add a footnote, he's going to win anyway. What we're really talking about is his winning by a big margin, because that makes him stronger. That makes him more effective when he comes to Albany for you. Because when he wins big, they do a big story. He won big. He's somebody to contend with. Every legislator, every assemblyman, every senator, the governor, everybody reacts differently to that. They say, hey, wait a minute, this guy's formidable. He's good for me because he's very popular. If I get next to him, that's good for me. So the larger the margin, the more effective he is for you. While you're at it, if I may, you have another guy whose name you should mention, and that's Bill Clinton. Now, let me tell you, please, that it's very important for Binghamton, Broome County, the Southern Tier, the state of New York, and the United States of America that this man should win. Let me tell you why. And it's very, very simple. You really have 2 choices in the society at this moment. What President Bush, who was a good man, I think, I've had a lot of experience with him personally. He's been very kind to me. I think his wife, Barbara, is magnificent. I think he's a good man, and he's tried very hard for his country in many different ways, and he served well. But he honestly believes that things in this country are all right the way they are. He really believes that. See, because where he comes from, they are all right. He was born in circumstances where for a lifetime he hasn't felt real fear. He hasn't felt concern for, losing a job, or my daughter being in trouble, or my son not being able to get educated, or God forbid a family which might not have health care. He really hasn't lived that. And where he's from and the people he goes out with and the people who support him for the most part, they don't understand it. Believe me, I debate with them all over the United States of America. There's a whole 20-25% of the population in this country who doesn't know what you're talking about when you say, my people are afraid. I've got 2 million people out of work. They're angry. They don't understand that. They're doing great, this 25%. They never had it so good. We have more millionaires, more billionaires than we ever did. And what they feel, naturally, these are not misanthropes. These are not people who are angry at everybody else, who want to see everybody else fail. They're just very, very comfortable with the way it is. And they don't want you rocking the boat. They don't want any bond issues. They don't want you giving money to education. Why? Because you're going to be spending their money. And they don't need that. We'll say a few prayers for all those poor people. Remember President Reagan? He's a good man. Remember he held up the sign to homeless. Don't worry about it. See all these things here? See all these stories about homeless people who said they wanted to be homeless? The homeless are all right. They like it there. The unemployed. Remember he used to held up the want ads? See all these jobs? Nobody should be out of it. Reagan believed it. He was a Pelagian. Ask Father Monsignor Owen what a Pelagian is. He was a Pelagian. Some of the people thought if you're bad, it's because you're bad. That's the way it is. You're poor, it's because you didn't try. They really believe that. President Bush doesn't think we should change anything. He doesn't think he has to help New York State. He doesn't think there should be an economic development program. He doesn't think you have to do anything. Just sit quiet. This economy is going to get better. Let me tell you, I'm sure of this. Not because I'm a Democrat, but because I'm a governor. If you do nothing, this economy is going to get much, much worse. There is nothing out there that will make it better. Nothing. If you don't do something to invest, to stimulate, to get rid of that deficit, to bring down that debt, to change what you're doing, the Japanese, the European Economic Community, the Germans, who are already stronger than we are in many ways, they will gang up because you're in a new race. You no longer dominate the world the way you used to. You're now in a competition with the rest of the world, and they're getting stronger while we're getting weaker. They send their kids to school for 220, 230, 240 days. We go to school for 180 and think it's too much. I'm telling you that we have to change things. That's what Clinton is. You don't like him. You never heard of him. He's from Arkansas. If all of that were true, I know him. And I had an unpleasant experience. People say, how could you like him after that? Believe me, I'm a very objective person. I'm sensitive about a lot of things, too. That little situation is all gone. I know this man. I've known him for 11 years. I know how intelligent he is. I know how competent he is. I know he understands we have to change things. I know he will try. He will try to strengthen the economy. He will try to put people to work. He will try to shake the place up. He will try to impose even some inconvenience on people who can afford it to make this place better. And you have to do that. That's my obligation as a governor. I nominated him. People said, why would you nominate him? He really wasn't so nice to you. I said, I nominated him because he's the best thing for 18 million New Yorkers, and that's what I do for a living. My job as governor is to do the best I can for New Yorkers. You need to consider, not just Tim Grippen, that he's very, very important to us, as are the other Democrats who are running. You need to consider, however, Bill Clinton and the presidency. It's very, very important, because I can't do anything for Tim unless our economy gets better. And this economy is not going to get better until somebody gets elected who will admit it's bad to begin with. Bush doesn't think it is. Clinton knows it is. Bill Clinton. Jimmy Talon. Let me say a word about him before I finish. He's another. I don't know what it is about this area, the Southern Tier. Maybe it's the atmosphere, but you raise special quality people. You really do. Talon is a very smart guy. Everybody knows that. He's very competent. Everybody knows that. But he's more than that. He's nice and he has character, like Grippen. They're smart, they're tough, they're competent, they're knowledgeable, but they're also nice. And that's something you don't get out of a school, and you don't get it by your political sponsorship. You don't get it by being in a party. You get it because that's the way you are. That's the way you were raised. That's where you come from. These people are both great tributes to all of you, to everything you are. And it's a pleasure to be with them. Thank you for having me. Tim Grippen. Here.
At this point, we go back and eat and drink. So thank you all once again for coming.